Hermit Jack Ward, living in the wilderness, recalls the day when, back in his successful days as a conductor, he stayed late at rehearsal and failed to meet his daughter Melody after school. Because of this memory, he once again loads a bullet into his rifle, intending to end his life. However, he cannot bring himself to do it. The man descends from the mountain into the forest, now in a more upbeat mood, planning to wander and hunt a rabbit. Afterward, he heads to the river to collect some water, only to notice a little girl stealing food from his backpack. Frightened, the stranger runs off with the loot, but Jack manages to catch up to her. Upon realizing she's simply scared and hungry, he tells her to go home and tosses her a few pieces of biscuit. Nevertheless, the girl follows the man, and he asks her to leave, inquiring about her parents. The girl lets him know that she is mute and has no parents. Moved by compassion, Jack reluctantly decides to take her with him. During arrest, Jack tells the girl he knows a little sign language and tries to find out her name, but she responds that she does not have one. Jack then takes the girl through the forest straight to a high mountain, lends her his jacket, and together they admire the sunset. After that, they return to the hermit's camp, where he allows the mute girl to sleep by the fire but insists she must leave in the morning. Jack himself goes to sleep in his tent but soon hears the girl quietly crying. Meanwhile, the mute girl remembers her life with her parents and how her father regularly beat her mother. In the morning, looking at the sleeping girl, Jack is taken back to the day when his wife yelled at him for never being there for their daughter when she needed him. Sometime later, the conductor found his wife dead from a pill overdose with a suicide note. Once again, Jack pulls out a bullet, ready to end it all, but the gaze of the now awake girl stops him. So the hermit simply gives her another jacket and takes her along on a hunting trip. But when he tries to shoot another rabbit, the kind-hearted mute girl stops him, and Jack explains that in this case, it could have been their dinner. The girl enjoys the forest lake, and Jack teaches her how to skip stones across the water. Then he decides to give her a name, Arya, so he can at least call her something. The girl agrees, but frightened by the wind, she suddenly runs into the forest. Along the way, she remembers how her father beat her mute mother, saying he spent too much money on them, including a large sum for the daughter's braces. When Jack catches up with her, she throws herself into his arms in tears, signing that Big L is coming for her. At night, the man stares at the bullet he once kept for ending his own life and calls God a vengeful bastard because he will not let him go through with it. After that, Jack decides to move the sleeping Arya into his tent and returns to sit by the fire. In the morning, Jack reminds the girl that sleeping in the tent was a one-time exception. He offers her some fish he caught during the night. Arya responds that she and her mom used to love fishing too, but then her dad killed her mother and now wants to do the same to her. The girl begins to cry, recalling how during a fight between her parents, she stabbed her father with a knife. Her mother had grabbed her and quickly dragged her deep into the forest. There, the mute woman gestured for her daughter to run and never look back. Moments later, the wounded husband shot her, though he failed to catch Arya. After hearing Arya's story, Jack promises to keep her with him. Meanwhile, Arya's father, Big Al, gathers his crew to set out in pursuit of the girl, even though his brother Roy points out that it is unlikely she survived a whole week alone in the forest. Jack teaches Arya how to properly hold a fishing rod, and after that, they play around in the water. When they finally manage to catch a few fish, he gives her a dress that once belonged to his daughter, without mentioning who it belonged to. The girl notices a delicate pendant around the man's neck and asks about it, but Jack avoids the question, only hinting that it once belonged to someone very dear to him. That night, Jack once again allows Arya to sleep inside the tent, while he sets up a makeshift alarm system using a rope and tin cans. Meanwhile, Big Al and his friends find the red sweater of the runaway girl and realize they are heading in the right direction. That night, Jack dreams of his daughter Melody playing his composition, Awakening, on the violin. When he wakes up, he immediately reaches for a bullet, all of this happening under Arya's watchful eye. Jack tells her he just had a bad dream and suggests they go for a walk. They climb a tall mountain and launch paper airplanes made from his old music notebook, a notebook that conductor Jack Ward has carried with him until now as a reminder of who he used to be. After a beautiful day together, Jack finally confesses that the pendant around his neck belonged to his daughter Melody. One day, he failed to pick her up from school, deciding instead to stay late at rehearsal. The orchestra was practicing the introduction to his own composition titled Awakening. Melody, unable to reach her father, chose to walk home alone. Lost in thought, She stepped into the wrong lane and was accidentally hit by a car. Arya, wanting to comfort him, shares that she also feels guilty about her mother's death. Her mom died protecting her. To that, Jack responds that sometimes bad things happen to good people, but that does not mean they should blame themselves. Later that night, Arya's pursuers appear in the forest. One of them, startled by a noise, fires into the bushes, convinced he saw something, only to be scolded by Big Al. The sound of the gunshot is heard in the distance by Jack and the girl. However, Jack, not wanting to scare Arya, tells her it was just a roll of thunder from an approaching storm. While they hide in the tent from the downpour, Jack asks if Big Al has weapons and if anyone else might join the search. Arya answers yes, mentioning her father's brother Roy, along with two of his silent companions who are known for debt collection. Jack promises her that he will deal with all of them because he has courage and a great responsibility to protect his young companion. At dawn, Jack apologizes to God for the insult he uttered a few days ago and makes a deal with him. Jack will stop trying to take his own life, and in return, God will help him protect the girl. After that, Jack leaves Arya a note saying he'll be back soon and heads off to set up traps in the forest, Rambo style. When he returns, he tells the girl to follow him. As they get close to the pursuers, Jack deliberately gives away their position, luring the men to chase after them. The first one to fall into a trap is one of the silent enforcers. He lands on sharpened wooden stakes, piercing his leg. But Big Al is undeterred. He demands that every single one of them keep going. Jack and the girl step over the tripwire and run toward the cliff, while their pursuer, the brute Beau, stumbles into a trap, getting his leg impaled by a stake. Realizing they need to get off the path, they decide to change course. Jack hides Arya between large boulders, telling her he will handle the rest, and then runs up to a higher vantage point for a better view. But at that moment, Big Al and his crew appear behind the girl. Soon, he is already setting his conditions for the man protecting his daughter. Jack jumps out in front of the pursuers, aiming his rifle at them, but Big Al threatens to push the girl off the cliff, forcing Jack to disarm. Big Al takes the hunter's knife and shows the wound his daughter left when she stabbed him before escaping. He tells Jack that the girl is not worth risking his life over. Jack quietly responds that the girl's name is Arya and seizes the knife back. However, among the armed thugs, this gives him little advantage. Suddenly, the girl runs to Jack and yells at her father not to hurt her friend. Big Al, surprised to hear his daughter speak, immediately starts choking Jack until he stops showing signs of life. Then, he walks off with his buddies and with Arya. Lying in the pouring rain, Jack imagines the tragic evening when he ran down the road after his daughter. As he pulls her from the path of an oncoming car, the child in his arms turns into Arya. At that moment, he suddenly returns to life. Jack begins tracking the thugs and, using the cover of thunder, silently takes them out one by one. In the end, only Big Al remains, holding his daughter hostage. Jack lays down his rifle but discreetly palms the bullet that was always meant for himself. So when the father shoves Arya aside to deal with the stranger, Jack quickly loads the gun and fires first. Then, retrieving his knife from the corpse, he uses it to end the tyrant's reign once and for all. Jack lifts Arya into his arms and collapses from exhaustion, waking up only in the morning. After cleaning himself up, he decides it is time to stop living like a hermit in the wilderness. Arya helps pack his backpack, and together they head to Big Al's vehicle, ready to return to civilization. And that is how this story ends.